The stem cells, theoretically, are recruiting new ovarian cells. We've known this for over 20 years. There's these ovarian stem cells that live in the ovary. Are we really running out of eggs? Like, there are these stem cells. What can we do to activate them and to then generate more follicles and more eggs? It's a huge debate in the Western world. It's because it really challenges old school dogma. But if you really spend time with the research, it's very intriguing. And so this is kind of working along those angles of like, are we activating these ovarian stem cells, and then we're encouraging the body to recruit more follicles, which is big.
Well, welcome to Biohacking with Brittany, the podcast where science meets wisdom. I'm Brittany Ford, holistic nutritionist, biohacker, and mom. And for years, I struggled with gut issues, hormonal imbalances, and the exhaustion of motherhood while running a business. Biohacking and functional medicine became my way back to clarity, vitality, and trust in my body. And that's why I'm here, not just to share information, but to share the practices and perspectives that truly shifted my health and my life. Each week, I bring you science-backed tools, honest conversations, and rituals I live myself so you can return to your own body's wisdom and create longevity on your own terms. Because your body already knows this is just the space to remember. Hello, and welcome back to Biohacking with Brittany. Oh my gosh, it's actually been a minute since I've hopped on this mic. I am coming to you from Mexico. If you are watching, you can see that I'm literally in my kitchen in Mexico. So sorry. Apologies if the audio isn't super great for this intro. We are wrapping up 4 months of traveling. We have been traveling through all of Central America and Mexico. We did Panama, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and now in Mexico. And I go back to Canada at the end of this week. And I know I am so overdue for an update on travel and where we stand with where we might move or spend our winters with this idea of cyclical living or seasonal living, I guess. And so I will be doing a full podcast episode on that, probably when I get back to Canada and I can kind of wrap my thoughts around everything a bit better. So much has changed in the last while. You've probably noticed I am deep into the peptide space right now, especially for women. And I am so excited about this space. Honestly, I cannot believe the support and the interest in this regenerative medicine space. And as somebody who's studying longevity medicine to be board certified in longevity medicine, peptides is a big part of that. I am doing a free masterclass for women. You can join me. It's April 16th at 12 o'clock. It's for 90 minutes. And this is why peptides are changing everything for women. I want to talk to you about how to use peptides if you're cycling, if you're preconception, postpartum, perimenopause, postmenopausal. And we're going to talk about why they're so different for women in general. Everything from energy to weight to skin, hair, nails, sleep, everything like that. It's going to be great. I extended it so that there's enough time at the end for question and answers. So if you're on peptides, come on over, ask me your questions. I would love to have you. If you're new to peptides and you're like, what is a peptide? This is also for you. I really do think peptides are changing the game significantly. And I would love to have you. It's free. Like, you literally don't have to do anything. You will get the recording. Everyone gets the recording if you sign up. So even if you're at work and you can't make that 12 o'clock appointment, you'll get emailed that afternoon to watch the recording. Strongly suggest you do so. I will put it in the show notes and everywhere so that you can find it very easily. And this episode today is with Aimee Raupp. We actually recorded this in Mexico as well, which you will be able to tell if you're watching online. And I honestly loved our discussion. We actually had this booked for so long ago, and then we had to cancel, and then we finally did it. And I'm so glad, honestly, that we kind of waited, because her new book just came out, which is called Yes, You Can Get Pregnant. This is the new edition. It's the second edition. She did the first one 10 years ago. And we talk about all of the research and the updates in this space and why she did a new version of it. And she is a fertility expert. She's a licensed acupuncturist, herbalist, and she spent nearly 2 decades in this space, helping women optimize their hormones, heal autoimmunity, and really conceive naturally at any age or at every age. So enjoy this episode. We get into a lot. We talk a lot about regenerative medicine and what she's calling regenerative fertility, which I love. So we do talk about peptides and we talk about stem cells and PRP and all of these other really cool, forward-thinking, innovative strategies for fertility. I loved it, and it was really cool. We talked about IVF, of course, women getting pregnant in their 40s, what you can do, how to space out your children for the healthiest you and a healthy baby. And it was great. I really, really loved this episode. And Aimee is really cool. Yeah, can't wait to hopefully meet her in person one day or have her back on the show. So enjoy this. If you want to join my peptide masterclass, you can. It's free. You can join my community, The Longer Life. I am so excited to be seeing you guys every 2 weeks. And we do our biweekly calls and I do a lot of question and answers. So I answer a lot of questions about women's longevity and regenerative medicine and fertility and peptides and all of these things. And it has all of my peptide information in there, as well as all the other protocols that I have put out and my fertility suite. Weird. Lots of things about fertility today. But anyway, and that is my ongoing community. And it's important because it's uncensored. And so I don't have to worry about what I say as much. I don't get things taken down like I do on social media and on YouTube and other places where things get flagged or just don't get posted. So you'll see a lot of content in there that is kind of like what people are actually searching for that social media will ban or not show you. So it's important for us to have these little communities. And my community is all about longevity for women and how do we become healthier as we get older, which is a great way to look at it. So if you want to join us, you can do that. I would love to have you. It's $97 a month. And we meet bi-weekly. You get access to everything I ever put out for free. It's included, which is really cool as well. So I will see you soon for another episode. I'm doing lots of private podcast episodes in my community. So my public podcast, which you're listening to right now, has actually been reduced to 2 times a month right now. And we'll see how long I leave it at that. But that is because I'm just producing so much content in other places. And so can't do it all. Gotta think about want to spend time with my son. And so it's a balance. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoy this episode and I will catch you soon for another one. Aimee Raupp, welcome to the show. I am so excited to be chatting with you today. We actually had our podcast booked a while ago, back when my son, I think was, oh my gosh, probably less than 18 months for sure. And now I'm in full toddlerhood. And so it's very interesting. We're just talking about your son, but I'm excited to dig into fertility optimization today with you.
Yeah, I can't wait. No, it's perfect timing because my new book just came out, and I feel like did we send you a copy? We have to send you a copy. Um,
You didn't, but I would love one.
I'll send you a copy, and I'm going to send you some of my skincare products too because I have a skincare line that I think would just be so down with your jam. So anyway, well, we can get that if we want, but yeah, the book just came out on Saturday, March 28th. So super excited. And yeah, I love talking fertility optimization. So I know that's the jam and all the things, optimization and biohacking and regenerative. I'm starting to coin a term, regenerative fertility. What do you think about that?
Ooh, I like it. Yes, because obviously, as you know, regenerative medicine right now is taking off. So you might as well apply it to fertility.
Well, and I say to women all the time when they're like, but my doctor said I can't improve my egg quality as I get older, or I can't do this as I get older because age is the only thing. And it's like, I always say to them, I'm like, listen, you don't have to take my word for it. Go and research regenerative medicine and then come back to me and we'll talk because every other age marker can be improved. Like, why the hell? Why is fertility just this box where sorry, you're over 35, your eggs are clearly bad. Like, no, it's not. It's not chronology. It's not. It's not. And we know that now from more and more research, all the info on ovarian health now and mitochondrial function. It's just it's clear. It's not about chronology.
Yeah, exactly. So was that kind of part of the inspiration for you to write your book, was actually just to inspire women kind of along that whole pathway?
Yeah. So I wrote the first edition of Yes, You Can Get Pregnant in 2014, I think it came out. And so, and at that point I had been in clinical practice for a decade and, my specialty kind of slowly became fertility over the years. And the inspiration for writing that book was literally like over a drink one night with a colleague after work where I was like, and I was practicing in New York City, lots of, I mean, I'm a New Yorker too. So I'm saying this lovingly, lots of type A New Yorkers who were like, and I didn't do that, and I blah, blah. And but everyone was so much fear, like, I'm gonna fall off this fertile cliff, blah, blah, blah. And I remember saying to her, I was like, I just want to like scream from the rooftops, like, yes, you can get pregnant. And she was like, that's your next book, because I had already written 2 other books prior. And so when I wrote Yes, You Can Get Pregnant, the first edition, a lot of my teaching, I have biology and chemistry degrees. I'm a medical school dropout, self-proclaimed, and then I became an acupuncturist herbalist, functional medicine, nutrition. Like I have a lot of education. But the Chinese medicine premise has remained the same of like, we always say like a woman who lives in accordance with the Tao, meaning like in touch with nature, like kind of like almost it's a bit of, I would say, hacking in the sense of like she's eating within the seasons. She's like waking with the sunlight, going to bed with that, like all of this joy is like her, primary focus, saying no, saying yes to what lights her up, saying no to what doesn't. Anyway, she should be able to have children until the age of 49. That's what we said for thousands of years in Chinese medicine. And so the premise of the book is still very much the same of like, I have a fertility rejuvenation protocol that's like getting back in touch with nature. So, this revised edition allowed me to go now a decade later, the amount of research that kind of supports everything I was talking about a decade ago is awesome. And then also when I wrote the first edition, I was uncoupled and childless and I was 36. And so I kind of wrote it as well for like myself to prepare my fertility so that I could do it when I met the right person. I wanted a family. And I was on the edge, honestly, about freezing my eggs. It just like, I didn't really have the resources for it, to be honest, as a single woman living in New York City. But also, I just was like, I think I can do it, and I met my husband at 40 and then had my son at 41. I practiced what I preach and that felt really good too. And it was great to do the revision and talk about that now and then talk about I had another pregnancy at 45 that I miscarried and talk about that and that experience. And so, yeah, the revision has been awesome because like I said, the data that exists now, and I know it's like your world as well on nutrition, obviously on the major fertility decline, there's an interesting correlation, we'll say, because we don't definitely know at this point, of infertility rates have gone from 1 in 12 from like the 70s, 80s to now we're at 1 in 6. We were at 1 in 8 when I wrote the first edition, by the way, 10 years ago. Genes don't change that fast. Absolutely impossible. If this is genetic, has to be environmental. Get this. Ultra processed foods were only 10% of our diet in 1980, and now they are 57, not our diet, but the typical, 57% of the diet, ultra processed foods. And then there's also correlations now where, anyway, I'll say correlations still, but there's interesting data showing ultra processed foods lower AMH. Remove the ultra processed foods, AMH goes up. Light exposures, FSH goes up. You remove the blue light exposure at night, FSH goes down. Like I mean, it's just like wow. Like and then environmental toxins, clear as day. I talked about that 15 years ago in my first book. That is probably it's just anyway. The research, the book has been awesome. Obviously, it's depressing to see that fertility rates continue to skyrocket, and all the male factor patterns now. But yeah, it was a great experience to do the revised edition.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm glad you took so much time actually to like research and
Yeah.
spend the 10 years and obviously the clinical experience as well. I'm sure that really, really changed kind of what you put in there. It's so interesting being at this age. So I'm 32 and I have friends who are kind of like all over the map. We have one couple who we're really good friends with and they're really struggling to get pregnant. And I don't really like to preach to people because I just find it kind of lands on deaf ears. I don't know if you're the same, but if somebody asks me, it's so different. Then I'm like, here, do all these things. So how old are they? I think they're 33. They've been trying for, must be over a year now. And I think they're really at this point where I don't want to say they're starting to lose hope, but I can see the stress. You know what I mean? Like when we call them, I can feel it. And it's hard because like, I guess my question is like without doing a full lifestyle analysis and nutrition analysis and overhaul, like what could actually even be going on? Like, do you just think it's like the primary cause is how much processed food that we're having? Or do you think that there's multiple things that like you really have to attack it from so many different angles?
I think it's every angle. So, one, I think, myth I'm trying to bust out there is that it doesn't just start with the egg. Like, I think there's so much pressure on like the lucky egg, or it's all about the egg. It's all about her. We know that that's not true. Like we've known since 2012. Like there's significant data since we'll say the 2010s, early 2000s. Autoimmune plays a significant role in every fertility challenge that exists for a woman. POI, premature ovarian insufficiency, endometriosis, PCOS, Hashimoto's, celiac, like all of it is present. So there's that. Sure, it's like that could be impacting her egg quality. So it's her health, but you have to think about his health. Like the sperm has declined upwards of 50% in the last few decades. And we are now seeing, like when I first wrote the book, we were saying male factor played a role in 20% of fertility challenges. Now they're saying 50%. And I always, I'm sure same, I always estimate more because I'm like, well, that's what they're seeing right now. And that was data probably 5 years ago, right? That's just coming out now, maybe 10 years ago. So uterus is another big piece that I will a deep dive on the book. So it's like we have to think about eggs, we have to think about sperm, we have to think about internal environment. Mainly hers, of course his, though it impacts his DNA fragmentation and his semen analysis, but hers because her immune system plays a significant role in the receiving of the embryo, the receiving of the sperm, in implantation, and then the uterus. Like the uterus is, in my opinion, the most overlooked piece to the whole puzzle. Sometimes it's scar tissue. Sometimes it's a uterine lining infection. Sometimes it's, an implantation issue, like an immune issue. And it's just not looked at. Most clinics don't look at the uterus until the woman has 3 miscarriages or 3 failed implantations of a healthy embryo. So but to me, your friend, 33, why is she not getting that makes no sense. Why is she not getting pregnant? That's, in my opinion, if you're trying every month and nailing the timing and ovulating, that's a repeat implantation failure case. Like, why are we not doing the repeat implantation failure workup then right away on her? Include the uterus, and it would include the DNA fragmentation on the sperm. So, yeah, you have to come at it from every angle. I mean, I think environmental and ultra-processed foods, I mean, to me, they're kind of same. They're playing a significant role. But then we want to, in younger girls, and this is where, I don't want to overgeneralize, but I will right now, especially if her like AMH is low or her ovarian reserve markers are already low at 33, which they shouldn't be. You got to rule out endometriosis. It's playing a role in at least 50% of unexplained, but what I see clinically, it's like 70-ish%. And then there was just a decent sized research paper. I think they looked at 200 women with unexplained infertility with failed IVF. They did do LAP. They did a laparoscopic biopsy, and 90% of them had endometriosis. 90%, which is a systemic inflammatory condition that has a lot of autoimmune links. Like, so what we're seeing is, generally, again, inflammation and immune system stuff is, and that, that's impacted by everything, honestly. It's hard to nail down what. And most, it's like, I always think like fertility is a spectrum. It's not like a switch that's on or off. Like maybe you're here and we need to get you here and you'll get pregnant, but maybe she needs to get here and then she's going to get pregnant. You know what I mean? It's everybody's state is so different too.
I would love to invite you to be a part of my new private online women's health and longevity community called the Longer Life Community. This is a space where I do biweekly calls with everyone live on Zoom. So these Q&As are where you can pre-submit questions or even come up live on the call and ask all of your health questions. I also do private podcasts where all of the guests who come on this very show hop into my private community and answer your pre-submitted questions. And I do protocols. Right now, I'm releasing 1 protocol a week, and these range from my latest women's longevity workout protocol to peptides, morning routine, hormone replacement therapy, everything like that. These are deep in research. What is the latest thing that everyone is saying, what you need to know, and has the PDF so you can download it, keep it on your computer, phone, or even print it. This community has so much content, but honestly, the best part is that there's so many women in there. It's a live, vibrant community where women are answering questions daily, talking to each other, and participating. And we all get to meet every other week. I really invite you to join. It's only $97 a month. This is so cheap. It is so affordable. I literally spend more on skincare probably in a week. And I wanted to create a place where we can all come together, talk about women's longevity and intuition. There is no other place like this on the internet. I am very serious. There's no other place where you can talk about living in alignment with yourself and your values, big life decisions around relationships and work and where you want to move and live, and also find protocols that are about your health, that are tailored to you as a woman, not men, but you as a woman. There are moms, there are grandmas, there are women in there without kids. This is a space and a community for women built by women. And I invite you to join us. Again, $97 a month. If you pay for the year, it's actually $970. So you get 2 months for free, which is so affordable. So I really want to extend my invite to you. Join us. There's so much content daily, weekly. Soon we're going to be doing challenges. We're going to be doing all sorts of things, themes. And I also announce special things in there before anywhere else. So like my VIP one-on-one consulting and my retreats and immersions and things like that. I would love to have you to join us. It is linked on my website. It's in my bio and it is in the show notes of every single episode. Just go click and join us and I will see your beautiful face on our next community call. Yeah, I think what was it? The World Economic Forum just came out with like their stats on women's health for 2026. And I think with endometriosis, it said, I think it was 4 years. It takes the average an extra 4 years for women to get diagnosed with that. And that's significant when you're trying to get pregnant. Because what are you going to try for 4 years?
It's like the amount of cases that we see, we coach with women all over the world and it's like, and we're looking at ultrasound reports, we're looking at IVF reports, we're looking at all their medical records, deep dive. The amount of times on an ultrasound report, we see what's labeled as like a chocolate cyst, which is an endometrioma. It's stage 2 endometriosis. And we say to the patient, did the doctor bring this up to you? Do you have endometriosis? No, I even asked. No one's brought this up. I'm like, well, it's on every ultrasound report. It's written right here. But it's because they're trained that IVF is the answer to endometriosis. And we're reframing that, of course, of like, it's going to shift more. It's shifting more. I think the awareness is out there. But, everybody's like, well, there's not much you can do. It's just a lap. That's the only thing. And it's like, no, it's a systemic inflammatory condition. You don't need the lap, but you need to diagnose it. You need to know what you're doing. It can help for sure. Now there's the 3D sonos that are out. Those are amazing. Then you can, pelvic MRI or a 3D sono. I talk about this in the book. Are great diagnostic tools to help you understand if you have it or not, and then to kind of make the plan. Some women want to do laps right away. Others are like, I want to treat this naturally. I think you can get there both ways. But yeah, endo is a significant problem.
Yeah. What is a chocolate cyst? I haven't heard that.
It's a growth on the ovary that looks like a cyst, but instead of being filled with a fluid that's more like clear, like functional cysts they're called, which we all develop them. They're kind of normal, right? We're meant to ovulate one mature dominant follicle each cycle. But the body recruits a few. So sometimes what happens is that mature dominant one in a normal cycle, non-IVF, but it just happens in IVF too, you'll rupture that dominant one. But one of the other guys that was maturing got big and they're supposed to disintegrate once that one ruptures. Sometimes they don't and they hang out. And those are functional cysts. So you can tell the difference because they kind of have they're like a pimple, like they have like that clear sebum inside of them. A chocolate cyst is filled with blood. And that's how you diagnose the differentiator. And then the blood-filled cysts are, I forget what the stats are, but very high likelihood of.
Oh, wow. And so is that the same thing as a hemorrhagic cyst?
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. But it can get confusing. It depends on the ultrasound tech. Because sometimes those functional cysts can bleed, and you'll see that, but most of the time, and the other clue is these chocolate cysts don't go away. They're there every time. They can change in size, and then if you're doing IVF, they always get bigger. So women who are like, oh, and then after IVF, I was so swollen, I was so bloated. Oh my God, I had pain like up the top, and it's like it could be ovarian hyperstimulation, but it could also be the endometrioma because it's estrogen responsive. And all those meds make you produce a lot of estrogen. Sometimes they're giving straight up estrogen. A lot of times your endometriosis like flares up during the IVF cycle.
Yeah. Okay, I asked because so before I got pregnant, I was having uterine pain and we got it checked out and it was a hemorrhagic cyst. And it was a few years ago now. And I do remember it hurting. And that was the first one. Like I've had cysts before because we actually thought I might have PCOS, but then my labs I didn't really have all like everything that kind of lined up with PCOS. Anyway, so I had this hemorrhagic cyst. It ended up going away. And then I was doing I did a full like detox cleanse, me and my husband, before we were going to preconception cleanse before we started to try. And then we got pregnant right away. And then I haven't had it since. So I'm so curious if that was actually a chocolate cyst then.
Maybe if it went away, it probably wasn't. So that's like a clue of like it could have just been a cyst that was bleeding because that's what it means. Like hemorrhagic just means there's blood. The chocolate cysts are usually a bit larger in size and they're just filled, but they're not necessarily bleeding.
Wow. Yeah, that's so interesting. Okay, that's good. And when I went through this, I was at the Emerge and they were like doing the scans and everything. No one talked to me about chocolate cysts, endometriosis, nothing like that.
No, it doesn't. It's and for us in Chinese medicine too, there's some pretty clear cut symptoms that like will get us to dial in right away, And then now with all, we see so many girls going through IVF and all of the functional medicine testing and things like that. You can kind of put a picture together pretty clearly. And then obviously we still have to get, I always recommend either a pelvic MRI or a 3D sono and getting it read by an endometriosis specialist, no one else, because everyone else can misdiagnose or miss or kind of underplay what's going on. And most people don't realize, like people, still think endometriosis is just like a period problem. Oh, painful periods, vomiting, diarrhea with my period. It's like, but it's a systemic inflammatory condition. It will impact egg quality. It will impact the uterine environment and the immune system. So it not just impacts like the getting pregnant part, it can impact the staying pregnant part.
Right. And it will impact menopause as well, right? Because of the hormones that are
Yeah.
reduce or release.
If you don't manage, it's basically like, I don't love the word estrogen dominance because I think it's kind of misused so often, but so refrain from saying it. But the picture is that they have poor estrogen clearance, right? It builds up really quickly in their body.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk about some of these regenerative medicine protocols or treatments that you're seeing come out. I think you just posted on your stories today actually about stem cells. I'm so curious how this would relate to fertility. Like, how does that work?
Well, I'm not doing it, but the doctor after that I work closely with, Dr. Murky, he'd be fun to have on the podcast, actually. I'll connect you guys. He is a reproductive endocrinologist, and he's just such a research nerd. Like, he is just, he was one of the first doing ovarian PRP here in the US, which is platelet-rich plasma. So you're taking your own platelets, which are basically your growth factors, right? And then injecting it into the ovaries. And there's now a meta-analysis showing that it improves AMH, it improves antral follicle count, it's improving blastocyst rate, it's improving fertilization rate. Anyway, that's regular PRP. Now it's not in the US, it's not FDA approved, but there are clinics. And the one I shared is Dr. Murphy's clinic. He has one in the Bahamas. He's doing stem cells. So they're doing I think it's placental cord blood stem cells. And same thing, they're mixing it with the PRP and injecting into the ovaries. So that's the best way to describe it. And I have a whole chapter. So there's so many chapters in this edition. There's a whole chapter on IVF, and there's a whole new chapter on ovarian rejuvenation techniques that I co-author with Dr. Murphy. The best way to describe, so regular PRP is meant to basically help recruit the dormant eggs in your ovaries. And so there's, that story out there of like, you run out of eggs. It's like, sort of, our egg quality, not our egg quality, our egg count declines as we get older, of course, but we now know women in menopause still have 1,000 eggs left about. So we don't really run out of eggs, FYI. Our reserve declines over age. I'm not arguing that, but this whole, like, you're going to run out of eggs tomorrow is just, it's unfounded and it's, like it's bullshit. And I talk about that a lot in the book. But so with the stem cells, though, the argument here, so regular PRP helps wake up those dormant follicles. The stem cells, theoretically, it's hard to actually know for certain at this point, are recruiting new ovarian cells. So new eggs. we do have, and we've known this for over 20 years, there's these ovarian stem cells that live in the ovary. And there's the guy, Jonathan Tilley is his name. He's a researcher at Northeastern University. He's made the argument for many years that, like, are we really running out of eggs? Like, there are these stem cells. What can we do to activate them to then generate more follicles and more eggs? It's a very, it's a huge debate in the Western world. It's because it really challenges old school dogma. But if you really spend time with the research, it's very intriguing. And so this is kind of working along those angles of, like, are we activating these ovarian stem cells, and then we're encouraging the body to recruit more follicles, which create eggs.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that so fascinating, and I have heard this debate, and I've thought about it myself too, like, I don't know, I do believe, obviously, we could see that AMH goes down over time, but obviously AMH is still only one biomarker. Like,
And it's only important in IVF. Like, it is, and it's secreted by ovaries. Like, it's like, oh, the AMH conversation, that's another thing. But
yeah. What was also interesting, just like a side note on that, is I did my blood work when I was pregnant and my AMH was so low.
yeah, it should be, because the ovaries go offline. You're not recruiting. There's no communication going on. And that's the thing. Like, I always talk to girls about this too. Never get your AMH checked, like, maybe right after you give birth. Definitely not right after you go off the birth control pill, because you're going to have a significantly low AMH, because it takes a while for the ovarian brain communication to kick back in after going off the pill. And you have to remember, like, and there was a huge study that came out, I guess it's almost a year and a half ago at this point, in Fertility and Sterility, which is the most recognized, journal from the reproductive endocrinology standpoint, showing that AMH and FSH are not indicators of pregnancy outcome. So meaning, Brittany could have an AMH of 0.7 and Brittany's friend can have an AMH of 1.7. And within 1 year, they will both have children. What AMH is, it helps it helps IVF doctors determine your response to IVF. So how much medication you might need. Yeah. It's nothing to test egg quality, right? Zero. There's no test out there for egg quality. I think the way you and I work, we're looking at overall cellular health and function. We're looking in hair and nails. That's giving me an idea of egg quality. AMH to me, when it's low unnecessarily, meaning, in not age appropriate low, I'll say, I'm always thinking compromised blood flow. I'm always thinking autoimmune or compromised blood flow, because the ovaries are they excrete it excretes from the ovaries, right? FSH comes from the brain. So when FSH is high, you're thinking nervous system stuff. Blue light. You're thinking something's circadian rhythm disruption. You're thinking something like that. AMH is low, secreted from the ovaries. You've got to think about, why is the ovary not getting what it needs? Or why is the ovary taking itself, I like to say, offline, which in your case, you're pregnant. It's not necessary right now. So nature's smart. It's going to preserve itself.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess before I fully understood it was like, I guess just like the average person, I was like, oh, AMH is just an indicator of my egg reserve. So then when I'm pregnant, but why would my egg reserve be down? But actually, AMH is a hormone, like you're talking about, right? So we can't measure egg for egg how many eggs we all have.
I wish we could. I try to play with numbers because I think it, like, makes them feel easier. I'm like, look, if we know you still have 1,000 in menopause and you're 44, let's make an assumption that you got like 3,000 left. Okay, we want one kid. You know what I mean? Like, this is I try to reframe as much as I can. Like, yes, we're running out of eggs, or yes, the pool diminishes. But can we, is it automatic that egg quality also declines? That's where the regenerative, like, fertility comes in. No, I mean, there's so much we can do. There's so much we've learned. There's so much we know. There's so much we can do to optimize quality.
Yeah. I was reading something recently. I think it was an article, and it was saying that we actually tend to ovulate more off of our right ovary than our left. Have you heard that?
No, it's interesting though.
Yeah, I was surprised because when I've had ovulatory pain before. I forget the terminology for it. Yes, yeah, and it always happens on my right. But then if you think about it, I just again assumed each ovary would have the same amount of eggs.
Yeah, and not always. So, like, say someone had the that endometriosis on the one ovary, it will have a lower antral follicle count. You'll see less eggs in there. It'll be harder to visualize. And when doing IVF, you get less out of that side. And the other thing with, like, oh, I feel it on my right side or I feel it on my left side is, like, first of all, our anatomy. The ovaries are the size of almonds. They're tiny and they're curled together. A lot of times, and not to discount what you feel, 'cause I respect what you feel. You might not know. You might say it it's so close together. I mean, they're a little further apart, but it's still so close together down there that it could be what we're saying too.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, I just assumed it was the right because I like it hasn't happened in quite a while, but
Was that the side with cyst though?
that was the side with the cyst before I was pregnant a few years ago. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So it could just be your tendency. That's the thing though too of like we it's not abnormal to grow these things. It's almost just like at what point though do they become problematic? And also, I would say to that, like, and are we taking that all into context when we're giving you this, ovarian reserve marker information? You, uh, no one's looking at CRP or homocysteine when they're measuring AMH. I am, but the typical RE out there is not, and so you don't really quite you're just like, "Oh, this is my this is my doom or my destiny of like, I have an AMH of point 0.3, I'm screwed, I'm never gonna have children." And it's like, gosh, no, that's actually not the truth at all. That's kind of the message that's out there.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you're inspiring people like that. Um, when I was having these cysts on my ovaries for a few years, and then I like really ramped up my preconception prep and everything that I was doing, I was going to a fertility clinic that was like very traditional. And before we even started trying, they gave me a prescription for Clomid because they're like, oh, this is going to help you ovulate so you can get pregnant right away. But we hadn't even been unsuccessful yet. And they were just like, oh, yeah, just go on this. It'll be fine. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, is this how easily you just give out drugs to the body? Like, we haven't even tried. Like, I was so frustrated and I didn't take it. And then I got pregnant. And it just showed me how quick everyone is like, here you go. Here's IVF. Here's the drugs.
Yeah. And listen, like I don't hate IVF. I think it's amazing. One of my closest friends is an IVF doctor. I refer people to him all the time. And he's an outside the box thinker, which is also what I appreciate. But IVF, is amazing and it's made hundreds of thousands of, people, families, and I appreciate that. But I do think there's like a smart way to do it. And I also think a lot of women, like to your point of like the Clomid, how easy it is to get, a lot of people are pushed there quickly without a complete workup. In the perfect world, every woman would be having like a pelvic MRI before she would go and do IVF. We would be doing a deep dive on the semen before we'd go and do IVF. We'd look at her vitamin D levels, her thyroid, like the basic stuff. Iron, ferritin tells us so much and get all that, like do the preconception plan the way you did it. That's like a perfect world the way you handled it. It's because how educated you are. I was the same way. I was just like, okay, I am in prep mode for baby was in prep mode for baby from 37 until 40. And I got pregnant the second month we tried, and sometimes I feel guilty saying that, but it's also like put in the work. I did, and I put in the research and I did everything I tell everybody else to do. And so I don't believe, I don't believe the hype, that it'll at 40, 35.
Yeah, we did the same thing, and my husband did it too, and we actually tripled his sperm count. And it was like because I measured again, I just did at home. Oh no, was it at home? Oh no, it was at a clinic. We did the testing, and it was like no alcohol, no marijuana, no processed food, working out every single day, like blah blah blah. We had this daily checklist of things, and he was shocked, and I was like, "Are you shocked?"
Yeah. Well, and too, of like the WHO standard for semen analysis is based on the lower 5% of all men who have had a semen analysis. So they're looking at the lowest 5% and saying whether or not you fall into that range. The functional parameters are dramatically different. I have that all in the book too. I have like a nice chart so you can compare. But one thing I'll always say is like, even if the sperm count looks good, it could always be better. There is like clear data on total modal sperm count and pregnancy outcomes. Like the higher that number is, that total modal, the better the outcome.
Right. Exactly. Do you know anything about peptides or peptides in relation to fertility in their regenerative space?
Yeah, I actually I'm going to venture around to Substack, and I actually just wrote my first Substack. I'm going to try to publish it today, talking about GLP-1s and fertility space of that. I mean, I've seen your stuff, and I do also like rapamycin, or is it semirelin? Is that the more common term too? Is that considered a peptide? I think so, right? Yeah. Then it's like for me, you know, um, yeah, I'm down with it. Someone was also just asking me, I saw it on your site about the telomere extend. What is it? So I have a section in the book. I touch upon like the most popular peptides like the BPC-157, PEA, KPP. The GLP-1s, I think because they're, obviously it's just everywhere right now. I am seeing, I mean, for certain, are girls that have clear-cut insulin resistance, and a lot of them don't have PCOS, by the way. And a lot of them aren't necessarily overweight, by the way. They can benefit significantly from the GLP-1. Even now, I'm not prescribing and I'm not a prescriber, but what I'm seeing and just kind of witnessing and observing is even like the microdosing, like doing like half a dose, doing it every few weeks. But we're watching the markers. And so, in certain states I can run labs and others I can't, but the ones where I can run the labs, and if not in someone else's, we're looking at fasting insulin, fasting leptin, fasting glucose, A1C, and it's crazy. You just watch it. And CRP and homocysteine coming right down with just a small amount of the GLP. And then now there's more and more of the endometriosis doctors. So, like, these are the reproductive endocrinologists, these are reproductive immunologists using GLP-1 from an endometriosis perspective. So these girls they're not presenting like you would think a standard, insulin resistant kind of case. And same thing, the inflammatory markers were changing dramatically. And a lot of them had high leptin. So leptin has been tested in my space for a long time, especially from a reproductive immunology perspective, as an idea of like, almost like energy reserves of like, does the body have enough, or is it in this leptin resistant state, which also tells us like it's just can't mitochondrial function is compromised. That's how I would actually explain it to like the layman. And you see the leptin change in like, again, low dose. You don't have to do the high dose. But the other thing I've been really thinking about and contemplating, because I have a lot of women that come to me in their mid to later 40s. My oldest that I've helped conceive with her own eggs is 48. And so, and lots of 47s, lots of 46s, 45s. Like, to me, it's like, it's still doable. Obviously, we have to, this is where we get integrative, but that's where we're starting to see the insulin resistance or lack of insulin sensitivity kicking in, right? In the mid 40s, in that perimenopausal stage, these GLP-1s, especially with microdosing, can be hugely impactful. I mean, I'm still, of course, I have a whole protocol. Like, there's protein and there's veggies, and we're smart with the carbs, and we're testing, and we're weight training. I mean, we're not just taking a GLP-1 and like looking for the best, never. But I see the value tremendously. In the last year, I'd say right now, honestly, 30% of my patients are on it and being prescribed by their REs. So it's like I'm watching it happen, which is, it's kind of be on the side and watching. And then that's grow and I learn. And then I have, quite a few, just of my doctor friends. Everybody's talking about it. And so that, and the rapamycin, there was also just Centerellin, there was, an anti-aging. We're definitely recommending it. Low-dose naltrexone is another one I use all the time. I don't know if that's considered a peptide, but like that same kind of anti-aging regenerative medicine. But rapamycin at like 2.5, 3 grams a week is improving mitochondrial function. There's now just a study with women undergoing IVF. For 28 days before the IVF, they took 1 mg of rapamycin a day. And in comparison to the women, the control group who did nothing, they compared previous IVF outcomes and the rapamycin ones, they had more eggs retrieved, more blastocysts, more PGT. I think they were PGT tested, but a better quality embryos as well. So you're going to see, I mean, I am already watching almost all the fertility clinics are going to start bringing that into their mix too. So yeah, I think it's, and I think there's more to learn. I'm not an expert. I mean, I learned a lot with the book, and I always learn from my clients. It's like I watch the trends and then I start to like nerd out on it. Yeah, I think it's a game changer, especially for I would say the over 44 population you can see. But then also any of these girls with like inflammation, which honestly, inflammation is probably at the root of all fertility challenges. Yeah, it can make a difference. Just gotta obviously be smart. I know that's your education too. Of like, I think like, the medical grade versus the research grade, where you're getting it, who's managing you, and that's the part I'd write. I'm like, okay, who's managing this? Who's looking at it? Because you can certain websites obviously buy it and just do it yourself. I'm not encouraging that. I'm encouraging that we're paying attention and looking at labs and data, and obviously having somebody with a medical degree on.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree with that. There's a peptide called kisspeptin you should look
Yeah,
up.
I've seen that. I talk about that in the book too. That's what I would say quickly. Like, I understand the role of kisspeptin, right? It declines its pH and it's produced by the ovaries, right? Those are the two things. Now, I've had, I'd say 5, so not a ton, but, in my clinical experience, maybe 5 women in their later 40s using Kisspeptin, injecting it themselves. All of them were actually medical doctors and NAD, same thing. I have not seen it do anything. That's not a huge amount of women. And these women crushing it on their lifestyle. Like they were so biohacking everything. And I've also seen NAD injections. I'm honestly not a fan of. I think it causes such a cortisol spike and then a drop. I love NMN, using it 300 orally. I just think the NAD injections on some people, it's kind of like Vitex, and some people it really backfired. Got to be so smart and so careful. So maybe I shouldn't generally speak that Kisspeptin isn't working. I have not been wowed by it the way I had been with Tirzepatide, to be honest. Tirzepatide, like, whoa, this is doing something. Rapamycin, same thing. I'm like, wow, this is interesting to watch. Kisspeptin, I wasn't that like, only because the girls didn't achieve success. They didn't get their babies. That's what I would say. You know what I mean? They were doing stem cells. They were doing the IVF. They were doing the right kind of IVF for a woman her age. And I don't know. I wasn't like, oh, this is a game changer. I understand theoretically how it could be, but I'm not sure I saw it clinically, which, that's important.
Yeah. I mean, they work on different pathways, right? Like Kisspeptin, from my understanding, is like it helps to trigger ovulation versus like the GLP-1s or even retatrutide that everyone is talking about now. It's all about like insulin and how we manage blood sugar, which then like trickles down to the rest of our hormones, right? So um, it doesn't surprise me that people are seeing more benefit on a GLP-1 or GLP-3 versus something like Kisspeptin. What I'm taking MOTS-c right now. I don't know if you know anything about MOTS-c, but MOTS-c is a mitochondrial peptide. And as you know, the ovaries have like, what is it, 100,000 mitochondria per cell?
It's brain, heart, then ovaries for a woman of the most amount of mitochondria. Yeah. So that makes sense. Like the MOTS-c makes sense. Even the rapamycin, it's working on the mTOR pathway, same thing. That makes sense. And I agree with you. I think the Kisspeptin, that might be it actually, like as we're nerding out. It might be that it's working too specifically on the ovary where we actually need more of a systemic peptide, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's like if the ovaries are already choosing to go offline, just trying to encourage ovulation, I'm not sure. It's almost like, I'm an acupuncturist. I love acupuncture, believe in it and herbs and all that. It's almost like if I was just focused on the fact that she was like 48 and I'm trying to just like nourish her jing, which is like a lot of what's taught to us, versus looking at the whole picture and being like, but what else is going on? Like, what are the other pieces here? But I personally just go for the mitochondrial function and anything that reduces inflammation because that's going to work. It's going to help.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say the inflammation part as well. I mean, you could do a full peptide stack, but I agree with you. Like peptides only work as hard as you do. You
Yeah.
can't just like be super unhealthy and then like injecting yourself in the morning and be like, oh, this is going to work. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like you have to do all the groundwork.
Give you credit, but peptides only work as
Hard
well
as,
as hard
yeah,
as
I
yeah.
say it's hard, but you could say as well.
That's good. That's good. It's true. It's just like, okay, I don't want you to like abandon ship. Like everything else still really matters. Because that's it. Like doing this for 21 years and obviously seeing, I mean, I could cry. It's like the despair, the heartache, the length of time, the amount invested, the challenges on your marriage of your couple. I think they liken it to having cancer, like as far as like what it does to your emotional state and your life. I want my girls to get there as quickly as possible. I am, again, that's why I'm the no bullshit of like, I'm all about integration. Like if you've had multiple miscarriages, I'm sending you to an immunologist, even though I'm like a natural health expert. And if they say you have to be on steroids, I'm all for it. You know what I mean? Like that's how I play now because it's efficiency to me. And these peptides, I think, can really get us there perhaps faster.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious on your thoughts on how much protein women should be having when they're in their cycling years. And I ask because I've dramatically increased my protein in the last 2 to 3 months. Like I'm, I just honestly, I got protein powder and I try to have 3 or 4 scoops a day extra. So let's say that's an extra like 60 to 70 grams of protein. And I've noticed my menstrual cycle has been so regular, like 31 days exactly the last 3 cycles, less cramping. And I don't know if it's peptides. I'm not on a lot of peptides, um, but I was just thinking, I was like, wow, have I really just not been eating enough protein?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like talk about the building block of life and also like quality protein for the glycine. It's so important. Um, so I look at food diaries on a regular basis, right? It's like a big part of my job. And the two biggest things I see most women do who are also doing everything, like they've read my books and they've been following me online and I'm doing all the things. They're following your stuff. They're still skipping breakfast and they are going too long between meals. So those like the timing of food, probably consuming, I mean, 40 to 60 grams of protein a day. And it's like, wow. So I would try to double that if I could. 80 to 100, 120. It depends on the patient. Like I do try to be patient specific in that sense. But most women, I'm basically taking them from like what they're currently at to almost doubling them. And again, quality protein. I think fasting serves a role at my age. I'm 51. Do you know what I mean? I don't think fasting serves a role for a woman cycling or trying to conceive. Maybe if she is severely insulin resistant, we might do that for a period of time. But like we're watching labs, so like we're really, really smart about it. And max 12, not, maybe max 12. I usually say I'm not a 14-hour with my women. But yeah, I generally say 80 to 100 grams of protein a day, 6 to 8 servings of vegetable, quality protein. So obviously nutrient dense with a good amount of fat. I think 30% of your macros should be protein, 40% be fat. And it depends. I adjust depending on the patient with the carbs, 25 to 30. I try not to go lower than 20. Again, even in my insulin resistance, we're just really smart about what kind of carbs we're doing, right? Uh,
What do you think about like high protein? Like my goal is 140 grams.
yeah, because I think that's great. I mean, I think that'll like A, it's probably going to lean you down from a postpartum perspective. B, if you're still breastfeeding, I think it's phenomenal, to be honest. But you don't have to be at 20 months. No pressure. I felt like I had so much pressure on me to breastfeed. But
Just weaned at 19 months and it was amazing. I'm so happy I'm done.
no, I don't think it's just hard for my patients to get there. So that's why I don't probably say that. Same thing. I aim for like 120. And that's about, I'm on like 129 or something like that, my weight. So I'll aim for 120. I don't always hit it, but I always try to do 100 plus for myself personally. Patients there. And same, we'll use the powders, other peptides in your tea or coffee in the morning or just hot water, like that gives you 20. We can get them there fast. The vegetarians are the hardest ones, and I try to convince them otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was pregnant my first trimester, I had such an aversion to protein. I hated it. Like,
Yeah,
and I eat so much meat. I've always eaten meat my whole life. I ate so many carbs. I gained weight so fast. I was
yeah.
also very nauseous. It was not a fun
Mm.
time.
But the baby's living off of kind of what you did in the prep phase, so it's okay, Well, that first trimester, honestly, like with so many girls, it's like calories, honestly, just calories, and don't skip meals because the nausea's going to be worse. Hydration, and we do the same thing. We sneak protein in, like whisk an egg into that pasta, like put the protein yourself a smoothie, nut butter, protein powder, like what you can hide in there, bone broth, do it. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I'm curious what your thoughts are. I know it's not, it's kind of fertility related, I guess. Well, I guess it is. Spacing between children for optimal health for baby, but also optimal health for mama.
A year and a half.
That's way less than I was going to say.
Yeah. But that's Chinese medicine. We say a year and a half. So sorry, from birth of that baby to pregnancy of the next. So 2 months. And that is what I suppose we see. I would say we as in the Chinese medicine plan is the enough time for the woman to restore everything. I think though too, like someone like you going in so prepared and then probably having minus that first trimester, very healthy pregnancy. I think you'd be fine to be in that window. But we have to look and see, right? That's where like the clinic is so important and all the the labs and all. Like, do you feel like yourself again? Are you cycling again? Are you ovulating again? Are you back to the I wouldn't say weight, but same body, or at least as it's like you know um, within a few.
But then what about breastfeeding? Like, don't you think breastfeeding is just like really depleting of the body?
Like, are you but if you're breastfeeding and doing it properly, meaning you're focusing on your nutrition and your hydration and your nutrient repletion, which is only going to benefit baby, it's also going to take less away from you. But yeah, no, breastfeeding, like when I have women come to me and they're still breastfeeding 2 years and they want to check for their next number one thing, I'm like, you got it. You gotta wean. Like it, I'm like, well, at least just one feeding a day, and then these are all the things. And then it is, I need another 6 months. You can't still be breastfeeding. So sorry, I should have led with that. If you are still, so I breastfed for a year. And then yeah, I think you breastfeed less as they start eating 6 to 8 months. So your body's naturally shifting, but also like most bodies, at least, they don't have the reserves to do both. And so you have to kind of pick and choose and rebuild. There's that, you probably love it, Deep Nutrition. Have you ever read that book, Catherine? It's about pregnancies too close together and the impact on mom and on that second child, bone structure and symmetry and all that. Yeah, it's totally aligned with the kind of how Chinese medicine sees it. Yeah, I guess it depends on the year and a half you've had. How about that? But that's our minimum is a year and a half, which for my girls who are starting in their 40s, they want me to say a year or 9 months.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I also had a C-section, like it was unplanned. We found out he was breech at 39 weeks. Anyway, it was a whole thing. And so part of me too is like there's just so much tissue recovering as well.
Yeah, you gotta do pelvic floor PT or Maya massage or acupuncture, castor oil packs, all of that. Like, I think same for me. I wound up with one and it was unplanned and, just the recovery of that. You have to take it really soon. And also then you gotta make sure you check the uterus, I think, before you start trying again, which means like a hysterectomy, which is you go under anesthesia for that, but you gotta make sure there's no scar tissue that could be impacting pregnancy because that is one of the main drivers of secondary infertility in a woman with a C-section.
Oh wow. So can I just ask my doctor to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it might be a hard sell. I would also though, like now, really focus on like the scar tissue work. So like either pelvic floor PT, I love, but Mayan or Virgo massage, I always say it wrong, a Virgo massage is amazing at that, and they can really feel if there's any scarring in there. And then, yeah, then you can kind of bring it up when you're ready to start trying to your doctor of like, listen, remember I had that C-section. I'm paranoid about scar tissue. I usually like give my girls a script. You could be like, my sister had it and it took her forever to get pregnant. And so I don't want to have the same issue. We'll do a scope. They can do what's called the diagnostic hysteroscopy. So you're not under anesthesia. They go up there with the camera and they look and see. The operative, you get under anesthesia, and then if they see scar tissue, they remove it. The pain in the ass of the diagnostic is they see something, then you have to make another appointment and come back, do it. But
Yeah, interesting. I am more towards like waiting 2 to 3 years
yeah.
between.
No, I mean, you have the time, dare I say. I know everybody's timeline is different, so I don't mean disrespect to that, but by all means, you have the time. It's lovely to give a child too all that.
Yeah, and it's just like my kid is so healthy and I think like could my body produce as healthy of it as a kid right now? I'm not quite sure. My friend, I just called her on the weekend and she has a 10-month-old and she's pregnant. And I was like, "My gosh." And so right away when she got pregnant, her breast milk supply left,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
prolactin levels obviously went down. Um, and
And then it happens. Like I also like that's where I get super spiritual, like in my work too. To like just to help manage all the things you see and witness. It's like I always say, siblings have a contract too. They get to decide right time for that. And if it doesn't want to come through when they want to come through, like, okay, we have more recovery to do for her. But she'll recover. The baby typically, again, that Catherine Shanahan book, Deep Nutrition, she talks about like baby takes what baby needs. Like if it needs fat, it takes it from your brain. If it needs calcium, it takes it from your bones. Mama suffers.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Well, just like you, I see both sides of it, right? Like I also have a friend who had twins 5 years ago and thought she was done. And then now they started and now she wants another baby. And she's 41. But for 5 years, she was like, absolutely not. Like, and she's twin boys,
But 41 is, and that's on Dr. Brighton's. We did a live the other day, and she was saying that because she had her second at 40, and I had James at almost 41. And she was saying that a doctor said to her something like, you should be careful sharing that information out there because it gives women false hope. And she was like, what do you think about that? I'm like, oh, I have so many thoughts. Like 41. I mean, that's what like we're just getting older doing it. I mean, I think there's a newer stat that, like as of last year, it was the first year there was less teen pregnancies than there were women am I saying this right? Like less women in their teens had pregnancies in comparison to women in their 40s having pregnancies. So like the 40s are now leading instead of pregnancies. That used to be reversed, and it's like more power, girl. I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, right? Like women have careers now, and it's like it's hard to kind of plan it and like taking the time off and like the recovery and
And like marriage rates will go up, but again, they make it seem like they go up like so significantly, or ability to get pregnant. But the real stats are like, yeah, I think 86% of women, your age will get pregnant in 1 year of trying. Although older, like mid 30s to 40, it's like 78%, and then like 40 to 43, it's still in the 70% range that they're getting pregnant 1 year of trying. Miscarriages maybe 1 out of 3 or 20% happen miscarriages under 40, and then maybe it's closer to 35, 40%. Over 44, 45, it is like, I think about 50% of pregnancies will end in miscarriage, but 50% will come home healthy children. That's still significant to me. It's like, that's still 50%. That was 80% and in my 30s.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's significant for sure. And I think we need more people like you and your book and like podcast episodes like this to actually just inspire women because there's so much fear mongering and stress and anxiety around it.
And it's like, it's hard enough. And it is work. I'm not gonna lie. Like when I get my girls in their 40s or mid 40s, I mean, even some of my girls in their 30s, when they just, they have to it's a lifestyle overhaul it is. And especially like there's so many assaults coming from the environment, from like the plastics to the Bets and beauty products to our work environments and blue light. Like there's so many things, but you can do it, and you're only gonna create, I think, healthier children in doing so.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, well, Aimee, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was incredible. I can't wait to read your book. If people want to order your book or work with you one-on-one, where can they do that?
I think head to my website, aimeeraupp.com. That's probably the best place. Has everything you need. I'm pretty active on Instagram too, so you can get there. And I was going to start my Substack. So.
Nice. Amazing. Okay, I will put all those links in the show notes. And thank you so much. This was great. And it was awesome to chat everything fertility.
Hey, I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for listening to Biohacking with Brittany. I hope today's conversation gave you something to take into your own life, a practice, a perspective, or simply a reminder to trust your body. If you love this episode, please leave a review, share it with someone else who could benefit, and join me over on Instagram at biohackingbrittany for more. And if you're ready to go deeper, you can explore my retreats, community, favorite tools, all linked for you in the show notes. Until next time, remember, your body already knows.